Rick, it's great to see you, man.
Hey Keith, good morning.
Good morning. Hey, let's do a podcast on vulnerability. The title of this one will be Learn to be Vulnerable. This was inspired by something that has happened over the last few weeks. I'll tell you the most recent event that happened, which was this morning. There is a guy who I've known for probably 25 years now, and I have really made a really concerted effort to stay connected with people. There are some people that I know that the folks that they went to grade school with or middle school that they're still friends with today, and that's like 60 years later. And I only have very few friendships like that outside of my family and not people that I'm close to. So when I started ToBeRe, I started to really be, committed to maintaining the relationships, especially ones that were mutually like beautiful. We both were winning in the relationship and helping each other be better. And so one of the guys that I met 20 plus years ago is that he put himself through school as a barber. And so he would cut people's hairs. He went through architectural engineering and he still does that for guys now that he is very successful in a white collar job. And so I went to go see him this morning. It's about a 30-minute drive, at 5 a.m. in the morning every other Saturday. And the reason I do that is I could easily shave my own beard. My head is bald, so I can shave my own beard. But it's a reason for us to connect and keep the relationship, the friendship going. So about a month ago, we were there, and somehow the conversation turned to politics. And their views were very different than what my views are in terms of voting. And and I was just so proud, not proud, I was so grateful that we could have a conversation, be completely on the opposite side of it, and there still be nothing but love present. Like that was great. And typically I don't talk to anybody about politics, very few people. But these guys were really interested and they wanted to know how I felt about certain things. And, of course, Keith 1.0 were like, you're dead wrong. But I kept it together and I just respected and accepted their viewpoint. And that was great. Like I didn't make them an enemy of me. I didn't make their views I didn't make it say something about who they were as people. I just made like, hey, they have different views, just like he's wearing a blue shirt, nothing more than that. So, but what I love about it is that we were able to maintain the friendship. How does this tie into vulnerability? I've been going there now for 3 years now that he's moved at this shop. And he has a high school buddy that he's been friends with since those days, and he's my age. And today we start talking about friendships from childhood, and they've been friends since childhood. And they start talking about how they grew up in very stable households. Their homes were healthy. And they start asking me about my household. And they just assumed that because of how disciplined I am, how I don't drink or smoke or do any of those things, that my household had to be like fantastic. Like, the Waltons, the Bradys, eight is enough. They just figured that it was like that. And I was like, no, my household wasn't like that. It was very challenging. I lived in fear my whole childhood. And they were blown away by it. And then they start talking about other classmates that they remained friends with, who they also thought had these like, idealistic, homes and family life. And the guys were like, no, my mom was a mess. And, we couldn't eat every day. It's like, but you would dress so nice when you came to school. He's like, I just didn't talk about it. And so I just think back to how liberating it would have been for me if I had a safe place in a safe space to share these things about what my life was like. Not asking anybody to fix it, but just share. And which brings me to gratitude for my relationship with you, the relationship that we share with Brian and Pete and Matt is one in which we're completely vulnerable with each other. And Tim, completely vulnerable. And it's just a beautiful thing. And what it does is the vulnerability moves out that negative energy or those negative narratives that you have, it brings it into the light of day. And in that light, it can be transmuted. And if you have friends around who are open and loving, they will help transmute that into something beautiful so you can let it go. And that's what's happened with me. And then also, most recently, I had a doctor that I report up to who was wondering why our relationship wasn't as good as it was with the previous physicians I worked with in her same role. And I was hesitant to tell her why until she kept, continuing to press me for it. And I just said, we're vulnerable with each other. Like we treat each other as peers. Like I know what they struggle with. I share what I struggle with. We help each other grow. And I think that when vulnerability is present, it is such a superpower, such a trait that is strong, that is connecting. It allows us to really, really tap into humanity in ourselves and with others. And I just think it's a beautiful thing. I don't think I could have made the kind of leap that I have in my practice, in my well-being, moving more to Keith 2.0 without vulnerability being a piece of it. And so I just love to hear your thoughts about vulnerability, Rick.
Well, that's a beautiful share, Keith, and it's so important. I agree with you on every level. To me, the vulnerability is about removing our masks, the way that we
Yes.
portray ourselves to other people. And our masks are there because the ego is trying to protect us from harm. And we think we can be a certain way, and that will make us invulnerable to any kind of problem, or to at least defend a problem when it shows up that is created by somebody outside of ourselves. But it's just the opposite. That mask tends to take over our lives, and we tend to live the mask instead of who we are. When we take away the mask, like you've described with the tight circle of men friends that we have, there's a lot of wonderful things that come through. You know, we all share the same kinds of fears. We all share the same kinds of doubts. We all share failures. We all are embarrassed about things that we've done in our lives. If we don't have someone that we can be truly honest with and vulnerable with, it stays inside, and you feel like you're on a rock and you're some kind of freak, that's dealing with these issues. Everything that you feel, that we all feel, has been felt by humans since the beginning of time. You're not feeling anything new. And if we can just get rid of the mask and let our true selves come forward, that is a long way to making us feel more centered, more powerful, more loving. One point though, here's the footnote to that. Sometimes when we're vulnerable, we're rejected. People take advantage of vulnerability. So the thing that we tend to do is we cherry pick who we're vulnerable with. And that is understandable, but the reality is you either are a mask or you're real. And when you're authentic, you're going to take a lot of hits. You're going to have people who are going to say, yeah, he's really weak, or yeah, I saw that guy, he couldn't handle it. And then you have to say to yourself, can I handle this? Because I want to be open, and I want to be open-hearted, and I don't want to have these defenses, or not. And that's part of the art of living, who you open up to and who you don't. But I think the general proposition ought to be that vulnerability should be the rule. And by vulnerability, I mean, like with your barber sitting in that chair, every time he made a statement that you disagreed with politically, you had the opportunity to say, no, 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 no. Vulnerability means you listen. You listen. That's all.
Yeah,
It doesn't mean that you're taking a baseball bat to the head by somebody else. You're not going to get a mark in your body by listening to somebody who has different views. So what? Listen. Vulnerability is 90% listening with an open heart and not judging.
yeah,
And we don't have to have a response. We don't have to have an opinion. We don't.
right.
Let it go. We're all here. It's here. It's in the world. It's in the world. You don't get to vote on it. It's here. Now, how are you going to deal with it?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just finish with this. I feel like I'm vulnerable, with everyone, about my challenges, my struggles, you know them well. But we're close. And I think other people that are not as close to me as you are, they know too. I mean, all my presentations and speaking engagements that I do, I talk about that. And I'm an open book. And what people do with that is up to them. All I know is that I'm liberated from it. When I held those things in, and every time I wore the mask, and even if I feel the tendency to put it on even for a second now, I suffer. I suffer. And I am committed to reducing suffering in my life. And we did a podcast about suffering. And it was a long time ago. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. And so I am committed to keeping that optional. And by not going down the path that is a result of self-inflicted suffering. So vulnerability has been a gift for me. It was very hard to do the first time, but like anything else with practice, it becomes easier and easier to do. And the moment that I feel resistant in being vulnerable, that's the part of me that I need to let go. Because whatever I'm trying to protect or hide, it's not worth protecting or hiding. I mean, they have a saying in AA that you are as sick as your secrets. And
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
yeah, and I believe that. So Rick, thank you so much. I love you.
I love you, Keith. You're my inspiration, man. Those are amazing words. What a great podcast. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you, Rick.